Happy Halloween! Thanks for joining me here. My name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And I love Halloween time. And I've been seeing this video on my news feed for all of October. And I was wondering, can it be done keto? So let's get started. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to celebrate Halloween this year because we should be closing on our house and we don't know what house we're going to be at. So I'm here to celebrate with you guys. As you can see, I love skulls. And that's why I just had to buy this skull cake pan. Every Halloween, I do some kind of crazy makeup, usually skull related. I'll show you some pictures of various Halloween costumes I've done over the years. But I definitely wanted to get upgraded silicone skull mold so I can do some other fun keto recipes. So I'll be showing you those today too. But let's get started on fathead dough and pizza making. So for these pizza skulls, I'm gonna attempt to use a fathead dough. I have already pre-made mine. I'm just gonna insert a clip here. Very simple. You just sift your dry ingredients, you melt your mozzarella and your cream cheese together. You mix in your dry ingredients, you mix in butter and egg, and then you keep popping it back in the microwave to get all incorporated and melted together. And at the end, you get a nice fathead dough. I preheated my oven to 350 degrees. Normally, I would bake fathead dough at 400 degrees. But because they're going in a mold, I don't want them to cook too quickly. This is my preferred fathead dough. The recipe's down below. I got it from Highfalutin Low Carb. It's a coconut flour dough. And this whole disc is 20 grams of net carbs. So if I get 6 pizzas out of that, that'll be about 4 grams of net carbs each, not including our toppings. I think I'm gonna cut this into 6 pieces and try one at a time. Get my dough into a rough circle shape. I guess we kind of need it more oblong shaped. When it's working with fathead dough, you always want parchment on top and on bottom. And we don't want it super thick because we're doing like a double layer here. A little bit thick in the middle. I'm gonna go with that for now. And we can always piece it together. So this is my mold. I got a silicone one because I want to be able to do some Jello and stuff like that, and stuff like this in just a regular pan is harder to get out. With this silicone, you can just push it out. So I want a silicone mold. I'll be showing you some panna cotta recipes and a Jello recipe after I get these pizzas out of the oven. So to prepare these pans, I'm gonna give them a little spray and a wipe with oil. Give it a pretty good spray actually, because there's a lot of little details in here. I don't want them to stick in there. I watched a couple of the other videos on these and just said to make sure you press it in pretty firmly so that you actually get the shape. Try this one. Said you want to kind of push it into the mold. Get any parts that are a little bit cracked, fill it in with a little piece. But I heard you want the dough pretty thin on these so that you get a really good defined skull. Push it in a little bit there. Okay, I'd say that's pretty good. I also don't think I'm going to fill these all the way because as you can see, they're very deep. I might just fold these over and make them like a little bit, thinner of a skull. So I'm going to I already got my pizza sauce out and my pepperoni. Now I made this pizza sauce homemade from some tomatoes in my garden. That'll be some of the content over on my Patreon account, kind of showing you the process there. Oh, oven's ready. Very loud. I'm gonna grab my mozzarella. Okay, so we're gonna put a bunch of cheese in the bottom. And then I got our margarita pepperoni that I sliced. If you're from Buffalo, you know what that means. Said to overlap them in the one video, so that's what I'm gonna do. You kind of press them down a little bit. Then I made the sauce super thick, so hopefully it wouldn't be too watery inside. Fold over our dough, which is cracking now. Okay, so it looks like it's not quite enough dough to get 6 out of. So I'm gonna do a tiny bit more dough from one of our other triangles. Flatten it out a little bit. Just have that little tiny area up there that needs to get a little covered. Okay, so there's our first one. I'm just gonna keep doing however many I can get done here with the dough we have, and we're gonna pop them in the oven. I usually cook this dough at 400, like I said, for about 20 minutes. So I'm gonna do like probably 30 because we're at a lower temperature, and I'll do 15, turn 15. Okay, so these are going in the oven. If these don't come out super awesome, they're definitely not worth the trouble, but here's to hoping. They are out of the oven, and I can't wait to see if these turned out. I know I should probably wait until they cool a little bit, but I'm gonna try right now anyways. That's what our skull looks like. I think I might pop these out and put them on a sheet tray and let them bake for a little bit out of the molds and see what happens. Because the tops are nice and browned, but when you pull them out of the mold, only a couple sections are browned up. We'll see what happens. So these are our skulls. They look pretty cool. I'm gonna let them bake for like 5 minutes at 350 like this and see if they get a little bit darker. Okay, so I baked them for a little while longer in the oven. They didn't change too much. They still look cute. Now it's time to try them. Do we have the, oh yeah, stringy pull? I'm sure they're gonna taste delicious because pizza in any form is pretty much delicious. I'd say this is a success. It is a little time consuming though, so if you don't feel like taking the time, I wouldn't try this recipe because it is a little bit of work. But I'm going to be showing you a couple other recipes that we can make with these skull pans. One being a delicious keto panna cotta, which is a simple dessert. And then of course, keto jello and maybe some jello shots for the party. So we're going to be doing those next. Stay tuned. Okay, first up will be the panna cotta. Super simple recipe. 2 cups of heavy cream into a sauce pot. 1/4 cup of granular alternative sweetener. I'm using the monk fruit. Adding that in. And then you're just going to bring this to a simmer over medium heat and stir it until the sugar's dissolved. And there's just little tiny bubbles around the edges. The only other ingredients, you got a 1/4 cup of cold water and then some kind of unflavored gelatin. Now I got a really good one from Thrive Market. It is a grass-fed beef gelatin. It's really good for keto. It's high in protein. There's no antibiotics or anything. It's gonna take 2 1/4 teaspoons. Add it to your cold water. You just mix that up. Let it bloom. You're gonna be adding that into your hot cream. While we're waiting for our cream, one other step before you pour into your molds is to grease your molds a little bit. You do not want them to stick. This would be best with a pastry brush, but I don't have a good one. I may not fill these all the way up either because they're kind of big molds. And then in these vanilla ones, I'm just gonna make them vanilla flavored, but then I made some keto strawberry jam. This will also be over on my Patreon, a little how-to on a jam. It's just strawberries, water, a little bit of lemon and sugar, and a tiny bit of gelatin. So it makes it a nice jam consistency. And when they're like starting to harden around the edges, the panna cotta, I'm gonna pour some of this like down the center of the mold. That way, when you break it open, it's gonna look like it's like a bleeding skull. So that's what kind of makes it a little more Halloween-y. Okay, there are little bubbles and it's just starting to steam. So I'm going to add my gelatin that is now should be a paste in there. We got a gelatin puck. I'm gonna put that in the hot cream and stir it until it dissolves. Then all I'm gonna do is add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You can add any extract you want to this. I wanna make sure it is all dissolved. The hardest part of this process is just waiting for things to heat and combine. I don't see any more clumps, but just to be sure, I'm gonna strain it into a bowl that has a pour spout. That way it's gonna make it real easy to put it into our molds. Yep, no clumps. I'm gonna add in our 1 teaspoon of vanilla, which I didn't grab. There it is. Panna cotta is one of those recipes that it's definitely easy and super easy to make keto. And you can decorate this with berries. If you're just making regular panna cotta, not in skull molds, and you just want to have it for a dessert, you can put it in like ceramic ramekins, butter those up real good or oil them, and then you can pop them out and decorate them with fruit or whatever you like. Maybe I will fill them up all the way because I have exactly enough filling for all 3 of them. There's gonna be yummy desserts for me anyways. Fortunately, no Halloween party this year. Okay, so normally you'd pop these in the refrigerator, but I'm gonna get on to the Jell-O recipe too and use the same molds, do them at the same time. So we're just gonna set this aside for now. On to Jell-O. So writing this recipe down below was a little bit difficult for me because literally you can use anything you want that's keto. When you get a Jell-O mix at the store, the only thing that's in the powder is the flavoring, sugar, and the gelatin. Now we can put whatever sugar we want in ours, and we can use any liquid we want in ours. Now, if you're doing a Jell-O shot, obviously you're gonna want some alcohol, and you don't wanna cook your alcohol. And the whole thing is just you bloom your gelatin in a 1/4 cup of cold water, just like the last recipe. We're doing 1.5 tablespoons. Get that going. And then you have a hot liquid and a cold liquid. What you use is completely up to you. Now, some examples, I'm gonna use some Zevia, sweetened with stevia, and it's good for keto. I mean, it's not the best, but either is drinking alcohol, but we do that from time to time, right? Now, when I usually make Jell-O shots normal, I cook whatever my liquid is that I wanna add to it. So I do usually, I think it's 1 cup and 1 cup is a normal packet recipe. So I do 1 cup of Coke and 1 cup of rum if I'm doing a rum and Coke Jell-O shot. So I'm gonna do a vodka one with my blackberry. I'm gonna make it a little less alcohol-y, but the whole point of this is having the right amount of gelatin for how much liquid you have. So you have 1/4 cup of water here. You're gonna heat up 1.25 cups of whatever liquid you want, and then you have 2 cups of cold liquid that you're gonna add to the hot after you melt the gelatin into it. So I'm gonna do 1.25 cups of Zevia. I'm gonna heat that on the stove. So this is just gonna be getting hot so that we can melt the gelatin into it. And then you need to decide what your cold liquid's gonna be. So the whole ratio to this is 1.5 tablespoons of gelatin in 1/4 cup of water, and then 3.25 cups of total liquid. So I got 1.25 cups on the stove, and I need 2 cups of room temperature or cold liquid in here. Now I have some Zevia left, and then I also, because Zevia is clear, I don't really want a clear Jell-O, and vodka's clear, obviously. So I'm gonna take a little bit of my mixed berry Jell-O I have here, and I'm going to add that into my 2 cups of liquid. So that's 1/4 cup there. Use the rest of the Zevia. It's another 1/4 cup, so it's 1/2 cup. So I'm just gonna use some Pinnacle vodka in there, which I don't know even how much I have left. I'm just gonna do 1 cup. And then the other thing with this is how sweet you want your Jell-O shot. I'm gonna mix all this together, and if it's not sweet enough for your liking, if whatever recipe you decided to do wasn't sweet enough, you can always just add a little bit of liquid stevia to it. So we need 2 cups total, so I'm just gonna add some water to this. I know I'm making this sound complicated, but it really isn't. The whole thing is if it tastes good to you. So always taste it before you put it into your molds. If you need extra sweetener, add it in. See our gelatin puck again? We're gonna add it into our warm Zevia and let it melt. Smells delicious. Blackberry vodka jello shot. So the important thing to take away from this is a tablespoon and a half of gelatin and a quarter cup of water, and then an additional 3 1/4 cups of liquid. That's all you need to know. And add your sweetener to taste. Make sure all your gelatin is dissolved in there. Then you're gonna add your cold liquid. Oh no. Try not to do that because that's more of a pain to figure out how much more liquid you need. I'm just gonna put another splash in there. Like I said, I'm gonna try this. Oh, it's vodka-y. Needs more flavor. This has some gelatin in it also, so adding a little bit more won't hurt too much. But like I said, just add your liquid stevia to make it sweeter. You're probably not making jello shots, so it's a little strong on the alcohol, so I wanted some more of the berry flavor. Pour it into my measuring cup and pour it into my molds. Panna cotta is already starting to set up a little bit. Okay, I'll make the rest of these into little jello shots. I do have the little cups. We're gonna pop this in the refrigerator. Unfortunately, this will take about 4 hours to set. So I'm back several hours later. It is dark out, so sorry about the horrible lighting, and my makeup's probably atrocious now because we had to eat dinner. I ate those pizza skulls and they were pretty darn good. But now it's time to pop out our panna cotta and our jello. I did try to put the strawberry jam inside here. It didn't really work as I planned. I'm guessing it's because it was too set. I probably should have done it a little bit earlier in the stages of setting and it might have worked. But we're just gonna decorate with some blood, if you will. But to get this out, I'm going to try to dip this in some hot water and then just plop it onto a serving tray that I have ready to go. We'll see if this works. Never done it before. It probably would have worked better if I would have done all panna cotta or all jello, because they're kind of two different consistencies of jello. I'm just gonna dip the whole thing in the hot water for like 5 seconds. Get it kind of warmed up. Okay. Let's see. Well, I'd say our panna cotta turned out decent. I think if I would have had a pastry brush like I had mentioned with the oil and I could have gotten it, made sure I got it in all the little cracks and crevices, it probably would have worked out pretty good. I think the panna cotta was a little bit more successful than the jello. I'm gonna try it anyways, but it kind of stuck in the platter. It is good though. But that's what our skeleton panna cotta look like. Pretty sweet. I'm gonna add some blood to it. Here we go. We got some bleeding skulls. Very Halloween-y. Time to try our bloody skull panna cotta. It is delicious. It'd be great with fresh berries. It's really good with that strawberry sauce. So there's another thing you can do with your skull molds. I wouldn't recommend jello unless maybe I didn't spray my pan, which I didn't think you need to with jello, because I guess I do when I do my brain. I also spray it, so should have thought about that. But my jello shots came out perfect. So these are still going to be delicious to eat. I mean, the jello is going to be delicious. It just didn't come out in the skull like we wanted it to. But I hope you enjoyed these skull-inspired Halloween ideas. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button down there. Hit the thumbs up. If you are interested, my Patreon link is down in the description box below. I'm going to have a bunch of extra content over there within the coming weeks. If I have any Patreons, I got some video shot of different how-tos and stuff like that. Some background on me and my story. So if you want to check that out, feel free. And I will be back soon with more keto dessert recipes. Bye, guys.